Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Benny and the Guest. With you as always, me, Ben. Today I'm joined by Chris, owner of K-Bar Soap Company. Thank you for coming on, Chris.
I love to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, I connected with Chris over Instagram, kind of saw his stuff going on. I was like, that's kind of interesting. And he posts a lot of funny stuff too, so it's kind of awesome. Um, really, like, everybody knows the deal at this point. Chris, if you could just tell us, I heard you earlier say you're from South Carolina. Um, are you born and raised there, or?
No, originally I was born in Asheville, North Carolina. So I grew up running around the mountains in the Blue Ridge Mountains until I was about 13. And my dad got transferred. And then now I've been in Clover, South Carolina, aside from my time in the service since 1993, to date myself a little bit. So 1980, baby.
What was that like growing up around there, like that part of the area? Because I'm from Missouri, so it's kind of that wooded hill area, and I know you guys kind of have that similar, but it's a little different down there. What was that like growing up?
It is. Growing up in the mountains, things that I try to tell my kids it was a lot different. Like we were, outside from the time the sun came up till the time it was dark. Like we never came home, didn't have cell phones. I don't know how we survived any of that stuff. Like it's a miracle to think how we even, are still around. But I would go out of my house, me and my couple buddies would just walk the mountains, just explore. Like I remember at some point we were 11 or 12 and one of the kids had a Playboy stash in trash bags and an empty stump. And we'd go up there, 10 or 11, 12, smoke cigars and look at Playboys, like super young, right? But
Yeah, yeah, it's badass though.
that's how I grew up, right? Like, so things are a lot different now. For that, I mean, I don't know if I'd be mad at my son doing the same thing, but that was super fun. But I'm thankful that I grew up in a time where cell phones and video games weren't prevalent and I was allowed to experience those things. But moving me kind of messed me up in my younger age. So, I mean, I got all these friends that I built up and grew up with and everything. And then I only moved 2 hours away, but then I don't see them but a couple times a year. So it kind of, at 13, kind of messed me up. But I love the mountains, but I've had enough of the mountains. My next move is going to be to the ocean. So that's the overall goal in life.
Yeah. I'm doing what in high school and stuff. Where did you think your trajectory was going to go? Like, what do you want to do?
I was one of those guys that knew college wasn't for me, so I was just going to work. I'd worked from the time I turned 15, started bagging groceries at the local food line here, the local grocery store. I was just going to work. I wanted to make money. I had no intention of joining the service at all. I was bad into a lot of extracurricular activities, and so I would just work to support my weekend habits. And it went from, drug to drug and all these other things. And I watched one of my best friends graduate boot camp. He told me he was going to join. And I was like, dude, are you stupid? Why are you doing that? And I totally tried to talk him out of it because I didn't understand it. But I went 3 months later and watched him walk across the parade deck at Paris Island. And it hit me like, I have to do this too. So then that's what pushed me to make a change in my life and not just work to stay messed up all the time. So I credit the Marine Corps with changing my life for the better. Like, yes, there was a lot of bad stuff that happened with it, but if it wasn't for them, there's no telling where I would be. So I had no plan. I went to the recruiter on a Wednesday, went to boot camp on a Friday. Like, it was like, I need to go
real
now.
quick. Yeah.
Yeah. I was 19.
Yeah.
So I worked 2 years. I graduated early, worked 2 years, and hung around the wrong crowd and realized I needed to change or I was just going to be another statistic. So
yeah, and it's
that's
good you
how it
taught
ended
that pretty early because some people don't catch it till they're even a little older, like a lot of military guys, they catch that from like 19 to 25. They realize, oh, I'm getting stuck in a pattern. I got to do something to fix this. So that's good that you caught that. You were 19. I think you said you joined back in '02, right?
2000.
Or 2000. So like this is pre 9/11. So you kind of just joined not out of, it wasn't, I mean, I wouldn't say out of patriotism, but like, you saw you needed correction in your life and you saw this act is like, this is going to help me fix that. What happened once 9/11 happened? How did that affect you?
Well, it's the oddest thing, and I tell this story, and You know, in the Marine Corps, you have to wear your alphas. You have to wear your pickle suit. I know it's very similar in the Army. You have to dress up. You show up when you report to any duty station, right? Me and 3 other guys showed up in the first sergeant's office, and we just got out. So the MOS school, I was a combat engineer. So I blew stuff up. That's all I really did: landmine warfare, mobility, and counter mobility. So it's only from the time you step on the yellow footprints to the time you get to fleet is like a 5-month span. Our school wasn't 2 months long, and then you get to fleet. So it was very fast. So I showed up before Christmas that year, and we're standing in the first sergeant's office, and 9/11 hadn't happened yet, right? That was a whole year away.
Yeah.
He's like, you will see combat in your enlistment. And I was like, dude, this guy's nuts. We haven't been in anything. Like, what is he talking about? And so I don't know what he knew, what anybody, I don't know what was in the upper echelons of leadership, but that came to fruition in 03. You know, then 9/11 happened, and then all the things, deployments in between there. And it did. He was right. So that was scary.
Yeah, I'm sure. How was your initial assessment of the Marines once you get through, your basic is probably, I would say, the hardest. And then you got engineer school, which I'm sure is no walk in the park. And then you get to your school or your fleet, and you're taking all this in. Like, what was that experience like? Were you like, what the hell did I sign up for? Or was it like, I love it here? Or was it, a mixed emotion type?
I called my mom like 3 days after I'd been out there, because remember, I'd never been on an airplane before. I was a simple kind of man, never flew, never did anything. First time I flew wasn't from my like home of record after engineer school was to Camp Pendleton, California, because that's where I was stationed. Never been on a plane at all. I didn't know how I liked all that, but 3 days after I'd been on station, I called my mom and said, I'm leaving. I'm buying a car and I'm driving home. Like, I'm done with this. And like, I don't, my buddies give me a hard time about this, but I made honor grad in boot camp. So like, I got to carry the guide on and everything. So I really made those 3 months are very pivotal in my like growth. So I'd already excelled even in boot camp. So I was like, all right, cool. This has got to be cool. Like, this has got to be easy. And you get to the fleet, and I'm just so far away from home. I don't know anybody. It's just a totally different world. I've never had that experience. And Mom was like, just give it some time. You don't want to leave. And it turned out it was the best thing ever. Right? Like, once I got into the rhythm, it was humiliating riding the bus out to Oceanside the very first time. So I took a bus to Oceanside and went to one of those car lots that you're not supposed to buy a car from.
Oh, no.
Yep. But I knew enough about interest rates to only get a 14% interest rate after some Marines were getting over 20% interest rates. So it was the quintessential Marine Corps experience. So I drove it back to base, and I proceeded to get my ass chewed for the entire company for buying a car in the boot, right? So learned the hard way about that. But I didn't date any strippers, and I didn't marry strippers, so I'd say my Marine Corps career was absolutely good.
Yeah, you only hit like one of the 3 or 4 marks. Yeah, you're good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Once you're in that, my personal experience, once you get to that unit, you develop some pretty tight-knit friends. And you're training with them, you're bonding, you're doing all this stuff. How was that? Did you build like that niche, like that group? They were like, these are my boys, and then like you rolled with that into what became the GWAT and stuff, or were you more closed off a little bit?
No, I knew everybody, and I grew to love every one of them. And I'd call the barracks that we were at a controlled prison. Okay, so that's just what I call it, because we still had community showers, community shitters. We still our room was just a room.
Yeah.
We had to go still use community things, because it's the same squad bay they used for Vietnam boot camp that we were living in the fleet. So the conditions were absolutely horrible. These places, they called them the crack houses. So we had to live 3 to a room, and we were all tight because we had to see each other all the time. It didn't start out me being tight because I wasn't used to being around people at work, off work, on the weekends, like the same people all the time. Until those relationships grew, that was kind of challenging, right? Like, then we started hanging out on the weekends, having off time, going to the beach. And my clique was pretty big, pretty good. And that's the thing I miss the most about it, is those guys.
Yeah, that bond, you can't break that. Especially, I think, your first duty station for everybody, it's always, because you're a private, or whatever, you really are in the trenches with your buddies doing everything. So what happens after that? 9/11 kicks off and you're in. What do you got to do at that point?
So it happened, and drank quite a bit my first, year in the Marine Corps, because obviously that's all we do. So I ended up with a stomach ulcer. So I drove myself to the Naval Hospital that night. So September 10th going into September 11th. I'm laying in the bed. They got IV in me. And I saw it happen on TV at the Naval Hospital on Main Side. So I knew immediately we were going to be recalled. So like they wouldn't come take the IV out of my arms. So I yanked it out of my arm and I left, right? Because I was like, I knew I had to do something, right? I mean, it's the dramatic shit you do as a kid. Like, you don't really understand it, right? Flew across base. And we obviously didn't do anything for a while.
Right. It wasn't like jump on a plane and go. Yeah.
No. But I mean, you see, all I knew like going was what I saw in the movies before. Like, oh my God, we're going to leave tomorrow. Like, whatever. So drove back and all we spent was that year preparing. We had Operation Bright Star that we had to do. Which was in Egypt. So we still did that deployment to Egypt and still did our combined arms effects there, even though we had started bombing targets in Iraq and Afghanistan. So the Egyptians hated us. We were supposed to go see the pyramids and everything, but because Americans were actively bombing, we were in their territory. We sat in the moon dust sand in Egypt for an entire month, like just in a tent, and then run and marked lanes and shot Mick and did all that stuff. So that wasn't that fun, but then we got where we were going to deploy, and then we went over when Bush gave the ultimatum, and then we waited 2 months and then crossed the line of departure and then made it to Baghdad and then made it out. So I was on the initial push, and made it to Baghdad, saw all Baghdad, did all the things around that, and then came back. And that was really it.
Damn. That's crazy. You're on that initial push, though. That's history, You, in the moment, I've noticed like that. I obviously haven't lived through near as much, but some of those moments you don't think so much of them at the time, and then you're like 5 years later, you're like, holy shit, that was like that happened, and now like that's gonna. So, you went through all that. You get back. What? How'd you cope with that? Was it an easy transition coming back after that? Because that's usually that takes a toll on people. Was it easy or no?
It wasn't all the way through because they didn't realize until after the fact that they need to do a little bit of decompression with us. Like literally, we showed back up with all of our sea bags and everything. We LCAC'd back to the beach and then got on buses and we came back to base. Right. We grabbed our sea bags, threw them in our barracks room, and left immediately. Like they didn't do anything to decompress or anything. It's like, here you go, here you're back to your family. And then so it was just left up to us to deal with it. And while you're in, you don't realize you have a problem because everybody's the same. We're all aggressive. We're all the same. We're all like super alpha male. We're all trying to fight each other all the time. It's all like that. That's that normal environment when you get out and you're around normal people. Like it's kind of. You kind of realize you got a little bit of things you need to work through, right? I had to watch my guys go back on their second deployment because my EAS was up. I had met my still now wife's girlfriend then, and I was going to get out. I wasn't going to. The divorce rate was somewhere like 70% of Marines that got deployed. I was just going to be another statistic if I decided to stay in, even though it was one of my hardest decisions ever. I knew I wanted a family, I knew I wanted a life, and this was my opportunity. So I had to go watch them leave 0-2 a month before I EAS, go back on the second deployment. We didn't lose anybody in my first run. They lost people in the second run that I didn't go back. So I struggled a lot with that guilt of not. If was I there, it could be something different, right? Could something different have occurred? But I mean, I realized everything happens for a reason, and I got over that. Lost some people that really meant a lot to me that first deployment, even though they weren't in my platoon. So that struggle, but I mean, you remember the good and try to push the bad out, and you live to honor them. So it kind of I've changed my way of thinking about that a lot. And it comes a lot with age too, because it was hard to deal with the first couple of years out, but I'd say the first 5 at least. When you have a kid and you have stress and stress is involved, you only have one emotion, and it's anger. Like it's just because you have it built up.
Oh yeah, that's I've never heard that expressed that well. That's pretty good. Like, just comes out as anger a lot. So do you
Fight or flight all the time.
found it so much because everyone's angry. So then you're angry and then it just feeds into everything you do. Um, so you EAS at the EAS, same as us, right? ETS. It's like,
Yes.
right.
End of active service is what it is. And then you got
Okay.
4 years of inactive after that.
Hey, for those that are listening now, I'd like to throw in little tidbits like that because, um, now the army or the military in general does an okay job now transitioning people out. They give you
Do they?
about a year of what's called TAP, it's Transition Assistance Program. So they help you learn how to write a resume. They help you write yours. They have career fairs that recruiters are there to get you a job. They have these things called CSPs that like set people up with an internship while they're still on active pay. And then,
Wow.
yeah, so there's like a lot of programs now to help you transition. Is it all perfect? No, because sometimes mission dictates you miss a lot of it or whatever. But a majority of it is good programs and they're utilized properly. It's probably one of the like
That's
four
awesome.
things
I'm glad to hear that. 100%.
yeah, it's like one of four programs that the military gets right. It's really good. Um, but when you were in, I guarantee they didn't have that kind of shit, right? Like at that point, was there any
No,
transition?
no.
Yeah. So how'd you do it?
They had tap and temp classes, which was it was over the course of like 2 days, but it was like you got an hour or two of how to write a resume and how to do this, how to do that. And the only people that were hiring was the U.S. Marshals. There was a big push for us to become U.S. Marshals at that point in time because of the flight risks and everything after 9/11, right? So the Marshals were there recruiting a lot, because the Air Marshals specifically were there wanting a bunch of Marines that knew how to handle pistols and people and all this stuff. Combat vets, they wanted them all to do that, to ride on airplanes with guns. And that was not something I was interested in doing. I got out and I didn't know what I was going to do, but I was mechanically inclined. I had built engines and done things, and like I was really into cars younger. So I got out, and the first job I could find was building diesel engine generators for
Oh, dang.
$10.75 an hour. I knew I didn't want to be on unemployment because I hated being on. I don't like living off the government. And
Sure.
so started building engines, worked my way through a place called Engine Power Source, and just moved up from there and just constantly tried to move up and progress in the corporate world. And worked in corporate for what, at the end of my career before I took this full time, I don't know, 5 years. And it just, you're still just a number. It doesn't matter about anything else. You're still just a number. You're easily replaced. There is no loyalty for anybody. I watch people that have been in companies for 20, 30 years just get let go from all that knowledge just because they made too much money. It's like, so what was I going to do working in this environment? Give them half my life just to, you know, get pushed out the door whenever they realize I make too much money. Like there was nothing to be said about working experience or knowledge of the business. It was like they can find somebody just as easy and pay them less and feel like they can get the same thing done. So I realized I didn't want to be a part of that much less.
No, I wouldn't imagine you would. You don't seem like the type that would enjoy that anyway or like respect that. So that's good. You said you did that for about 5 years?
Well, my working career was from 2000. So I went full time with this in 2019. So this was my only job. So I worked from 2020, so 15 years total working for other people.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Okay.
got my business degree in the middle of that. Like, so I used my GI Bill, went back in school, got my degree. And so like I was up for promotion. I was in the engineering field. I was in R&D, and they said they wouldn't give me the engineer title, but because I knew the job, but they wouldn't give me the engineering title without a degree. So I was like, what if I get a business degree? Will that count? And they're like, I'll give you an engineer title with a business degree because you know everything. It's like, okay, cool. So I went and got a business management degree. It is.
Even though they know the job better than the people above them. It's
And it
crazy.
doesn't matter. It's like, there's such a fallacy. We can go down that rabbit hole, but like college, I don't necessarily believe in it. But I told my son, like, you need to do something to get out of the house to like sow your oats. Like, so it's either military, go to college, whatever. So we're right on that cusp. He graduates this year. I don't believe in the college education system, but I can't speak for all the employers that require it. So I don't ever want that to hold him back, by any means, to getting a job that he wants or having the skills or knowledge he wants to succeed. So get out of high school and do it now. It's 10 times harder to go back. My son had been born. I ended up going to school. I'd show up to my job 2 hours early. So I'd show up to my job at 5. I didn't have to be there until 7 and use their internet and do my online courses. And that's how I ended up getting my degree in 2 years. I ended up doing 28 Marine Corps Institute classes, like just education courses or whatever you can take for free. I know the Army has something very similar. I did every one of them that was ACE accredited. So whenever I went to apply for a school, I didn't have to do but 2 years to get my bachelor's degree because of all those courses all the Marines talk shit about. So I literally saved 2 years of my life in college just from doing free MCIs that the answers are in the back of the book. Like, it's the easiest thing ever. So I don't know. I wish more would take advantage of that.
Yeah. I attempted college when I first got out of high school, and that was felt miserably. And then I joined, and it was a bad deal. And then joined. I really was so against college at then. I was like, and then I have 4 kids, and then I'm like, well, I need to get some type of job when I get out that can pay these bills. And you're like, pretty much everything I got to either go to a technical certification for or a degree. So I got my degree, but if I could do it all over again, you almost you're like, why wouldn't you just get a trade first or something? That way you have at least a mechanical understanding of the world. Like, you have a skill to offer regardless. And then college seems like if you want to further something like education wise, sure, but it's leaned on so heavily instead of on the job training and accreditations like that. I completely agree with you. It's needed, but it's overemphasized like crazy.
It is. I'll never call it necessary. Like I'll try to push my son to the trades. 100%. But I got him an internship. He's doing a welding thing where they'll take him to college in the morning, so he'll graduate high school with a welding certification and graduate high school at the same time. So they bust him to college and do that. And but I got him an internship. One of my buddies, he's another Marine, locally runs a fab shop over the summer. No heat, no air conditioning. Hot is absolute hell in here. Traditional fab shop, right? He worked there all summer and realizes that's something that he may not want to do. So I mean, I understand it completely. It's a shitty environment. But you're young, you're resilient, and you can make money welding. So what do you want to do here? But trades are going to come back. Trades are going to absolutely. People can name their price now.
Oh yeah, and I mean, you look at like how technology is advancing and stuff. Service industry's going out the window right now. It's heavily pushed. Like, if you have a malleable skill, like, that's gonna speak volumes. And like, even in the towns, like the town we lived in, it was super small, but I see it even here. All the trades, they're undermanned right now, so they could charge like crazy because they're so busy. They gotta make their money still. I could go on and on about that stuff. It's just, but then also, like, your son, you said, like, I don't like working in this heat, and it's like, all right, then go to college at this point. If you don't want to work in the heart, it ain't for everybody. I had a handful of hard labor jobs before I joined the Army. Like, every time somebody tell me the Army, like, we're out in the field and it sucks, I'm just like, I just remember working at that plastics manufacturing plant at midnight. I'm like, you know what? This ain't that. Like, he's so much.
I feel like there is a progression of embracing the suck that you have to get to, right? Like, you have to. I worked outdoor jobs. I worked sheet metal before I went into the Marine Corps, and I was like, on sheet metal roofs in the summertime. Like, I don't know. It's not fun. It's not fun at all. But I wanted money, and I like money.
Yes. What in this 15-year time frame, you're working and stuff. I know you said all that stuff, but then what made you want to get into like soap? That's That's an interesting one.
Well, knew I didn't want to spend my life working for somebody else. I read a book by Tim Ferriss called The 4-Hour Work Week at one point because it was recommended on some book club or whatever. And I always like reading books and try to better myself. I try to learn every day, right? And I read that 4-Hour Work Week, and one of the main takeaways I got from it is like you can spend your entire life trying to work to make somebody else rich, or you can do it on your own for yourself. And I'm like, okay, so what skills do I have? What can I do on my own? So I've tried, I don't know how many things throughout the years. I would always be trying to figure out what I was going to do, what product I was going to create, what was going to happen. And tried a couple of things that absolutely were not feasible. I had this idea, and I don't know. I'll put it out. It doesn't matter. If somebody can figure it out, they can figure it out. But it was called beertosmoke.com. So my whole thinking is that you get separated from your buddies in service, right? You can come on the website, and I have all these craft beers to choose from, whatever. And I have a humidor cigar. So you tell me what 2 beers I need to send to your buddy with what cigar, and I send the same to you, so you have a phone call and have a couple beers and a cigar with a buddy. Like, I thought that was an absolutely amazing idea. But they have to show up cold. So I went through trying to figure out how to ship the stuff,
Lord.
2 beers cold to California. So I shipped some to my father-in-law, and they made it cold, but the box was more than the product and everything. So the cost wasn't there. It would end up costing, $70 for 2 beers and a cigar. So somebody can figure that out cheaply. I still think that would be a good bring people together one.
I do it. I like that idea. I like it. It's fun.
Yeah, I think it's kind of cool for reconnecting. But I realized I made it into Husqvarna, so I was working in outdoor power equipment for the bulk of my career in R&D and then everywhere else. I ran their test lab, and then I got promoted to product management. So I was over all their packaged parts that you go into Lowe's and see and everything. So that was my category in their retail locations. Was handling all the Husqvarna packaged parts, Pull and Pro, all the other brands that was under that umbrella.
Yeah.
And I got the director job above me came open, and because I didn't have 10 years of product management experience, they were going to do away with my job. This is not me being sexist by any means, but they hired a woman to be my director that didn't have any outdoor power equipment experience, and they expected me to train her for 6 months.
I never get
that. So I'm supposed to train somebody over me. Yeah. So I got super frustrated about it, and I was like, all right, I have to figure something out now. Like, I need an exit. Like, I need to figure out a business to start, because this is it. Like, this is the push I needed. This is the nudge.
Yeah.
And I had different ideas that were super expensive, and I got frustrated at those going down dead ends, realizing some of my ideas are way too expensive. So I got frustrated one day and Googled how to start a business with no money. Legit how all this stuff occurred.
Hell yeah.
Number 6 was start a soap business. And I'm like, interesting. Start a soap business. I don't know shit about soap. So I started doing research and went through, and nobody. So there was Dr. Swatch was out then, but we're talking 8-9 years ago now. So this was 2015 that I went through trying to figure all this out. And there was nothing. You go in a soap shop, it was all catered to women, all frou-frou stuff and all everything, but it was like good for you stuff, the natural stuff. I'm like, well, how can I put a military creative spin on this to get guys to want to use something that's actually natural and good for their skin, not the chemical bullshit that they sell now? And then I decided to make it a grenade and did all these other things. And that's just where it all started. It took me like 8 months of Googling the shit how to make soap. Like it took me so much trial and error. I wasted so much money, batches, this and that. There's science to it. It's not just like super easy. Figured it out, tested it on everybody. I used everything that I did, give a bunch out, and then I operated out of my house for the first 7 years. I actually moved into this facility in June of last year. So I was able to operate out of my garage and my bonus room to like absolute capacity as long as I could, to not have the overhead of having an actual place. But this has been perfect to have. But that's just how it all started. I sold, and like, obviously my primary customer are veterans, because it takes a very rare person to like have to romanticize about a grenade. Don't even understand what it is. But it allowed me to have that conversation with guys about what's in body wash, what's in store-bought soap, what's in everything, because we're visual by nature. The visuality, seeing the grenade woods all man allowed me to have that conversation with them. So that's kind of like that approach. That's just where it morphed to. And 8.5 years later.
Hell yeah.
Still here.
I think my wife, she's gotten big into a lot of the health stuff. And then I think now, especially with the focus on like RFK coming in, and there's a big emphasis on what's in ingredients, what ingredients is the US using? I think that natural thing is going to explode more than ever. It's a big, cause like even now she makes all her own bread. We were getting our own, we used to have ducks and chickens and goats. We used to milk the goats every morning to get our own milk and stuff.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. So she knows all about that. And it's crazy when you look at like Axe body wash, what's in that, like just some of the stuff, you're like, damn. So I saw your stuff and I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And like you said, it caters, especially like, 10 to 20-year-old men, 10 to 25-year-old men, they see a grenade hand soap, you're like, that's kind of cool. I'm going to mess with it.
And that's it. That's what it's trying to like to push and get. Like, but you look at, like you said, the ingredients on any kind of Axe body wash, there's 100 ingredients and you don't need 95 of them. So it's minimal ingredient, no preservatives, no nothing. Everything you need, nothing you don't. That's my whole thing. Sour with freedom of sour-free chemicals. Like, you don't need any of that stuff. Soap's just meant to get you clean.
Yeah, exactly. You, how did you find with like plussing up that, like, what, was that like difficult for you to get like from going into like, you're working for an industry and then you're running at this with full steam? You got that business degree. So I'm sure some of the classes help you a little bit, but like, how did you find that process of like getting your momentum going on that? Because obviously it worked because you went from your garage to this awesome little place you got.
It did, but it wasn't. So I ended up leaving that job and taking a job in my little town to supplement. So I found a job here that I was making half of what I was making in Husqvarna, but it was close. So I could go home at lunch and I was only 10 minutes from my house. So then instead of being an hour trying to find another job in the city, found one here. And so I supplemented for about 8 months after I quit that Husqvarna, after I left the Husqvarna job. And then I just decided, like, it's done. Like, I have to go forward and just make this work, because you have the whole balance. Either you decide not to sleep, or the side gig is never going to be the full-time gig without fully focusing on the side gig.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Because if you know you have to go to a job and perform every day and complete certain tasks, it's very hard to switch off your baby to do something for somebody else. So it's kind of, so it wasn't easy. There's all these steps you have to do to start a business that, like, I don't know, I guess a small business administration may help you, but filing for your LLC, making sure all your tax information is okay, doing all the legality pieces of all this. Do I need to be an LLC, an S Corp, all these things? It was just trial and error and make mistakes and learn, and finally figured it out. I will tell you though, and I hope you got better at listening to this. Whenever I first started, there's this thing called the Entrepreneurial Boot Camp for Veterans. It's run by the Institute for Veteran and Military Families. I don't know if you're familiar with it at all or not.
I never heard of that.
But anybody that has that entrepreneurial mindset, it is a free course to anybody that has any kind of disability rating. So you have to have 30% or over, but it's totally free. And it's a 10-day in-residency crash course on how to be an entrepreneur. And it is absolutely amazing.
That's awesome. My dad, he didn't serve, but from my childhood till about when I was 20 or so, he was always an entrepreneur. Like, we sold deer piss for 10 years. And then we sold t-shirts and koozies and stuff. He did screen printing back when he did that. And I'm telling you, being an entrepreneur is like one of the hardest jobs ever, because it's all on you. You got to get it done. And it's like you said, you either get to sleep or this ain't going to take off, and that's hard stuff. He would be out driving all week. Like, this is back before the internet. Like, this is late 90s, early 2000s, and we're out in the boondocks, so there's no internet. He would get in a little Ford Escort, travel like 26 states, knocking on gas stations and outfitters, being like, hey, do you want to buy this? And then come back, fill the order, and take it out like over and over and over. And so I know like that it's, yeah, good days and bad days, but the work ethic it takes is a lot. So that's good. You're getting after it. Are you enjoying it actually now? Like, you find like solace in it and stuff, or is it, how do you feel about it so far?
It's a love-hate relationship, to be perfectly honest, because it's such a roller coaster. You get used to a consistent income, working a job, doing everything, and it ebbs and flows. But I won't ever take anything away from it, because I realize that even if I were to move into that director position, I'd have to travel 1 to 2 weeks every month, and then how much of that time would I've lost with my kids whenever they were younger, right?
Yeah.
So the time is the most important commodity anybody ever has. Like, and so I realized that at that point, it's the most precious, most priceless commodity we ever have. Anybody that has kids, I work to support my family, not in spite of them. So I didn't want to be away. So it was like, I knew I have to make this happen if I'm going to be around, because the next step in my career was where I'd have to, at that level, I would be traveling typically, no matter where I work. So I'm thankful for that it's allowed me to go, pick my daughter up from school, take my daughter to school, never miss my son. I've been able to coach my son's soccer team. He shoots clay target now. I'm a coach for that. It allows me the time to be a part of things that I wouldn't be a part of. So for that reason, I love it. It is a lot of work wearing all the different hats, though, trying to figure out. I'm good at making it. I spend a lot of time making it, but then, you got to do financial stuff. You have to do taxes. You have to do. I hate social media. I'm not good at it. But
Yeah.
then, you have to do all these things.
Yeah. I'm not running a business, but like with this stuff, it is, I love recording. I love having conversations, but I am so bad at the internet. I talk to other guys doing it, and they're like, yeah, you just do this, this, and that. I'm like, I don't have the time, or like that just sounds crazy to me. Like, or they put out little clips. I'm just like, I don't get how you're doing all that, but you got to start learning it and get after it, or you're going to, like you said, you're going to fall behind, or it ain't going to take off. So that I can relate to that. That is hard as hell. Now with that, your wife and kids, are they involved in it at all? Like, I guess not your kids, probably, they're still a little younger, but your wife, is she like helping you through it all, or she got her own gig going on?
She works, so she still has a full-time job. So like what this also does is allow her freedom to chase her career too, like, because there's nothing really binding her at the house. There's a rare occasion where I'll be like, look, honey, I have to do this. Like, I went to a conference yesterday. It was one of those motivational conferences David Goggins spoke at, and I was like, well, I've never seen David Goggins in person, so I want to go like get my ass chewed in mass by David Goggins, right? So she had to go do everything yesterday. So as long as I plan it, it's fine. But typically, I'm the one that runs them around, and it allows her to go to work and not have to worry about anything here, because I can adapt my schedule. So for freedom of time, it's been priceless. Again. But yeah, she does her own gig. My son does packaging for me, so I actually, like, he'll come in, and I realize I'm paying him by the piece. I'm not paying him by the hour, because I'm way faster than him. So I'll pay you based off what you complete, not how long you're in these doors. So he's speeding up, though. He's 17. Like, he's about to go to college. He's about to go do all the things. So I only have him for a certain amount of time, and then hopefully my daughter will pick up where he left off and help me do that, because there's whole tax benefits of being able to pay your kids up to a certain amount. And then so that's why I try to utilize them as much. And I say it's free labor, but it gives them spending money, and it helps me out. So
yeah. I want to go back to that one spot, because you said something earlier that hit with me. I love reading too. Like, I especially the past 2-3 years, I've really been trying to, like, I'm a history major, so I started reading a lot of history books, but then I just started reading, like, you said, like, motivational self-help stuff, and then just other random things. But, I think everybody, I would love everyone to read. I know that's not realistic, but I think it truly helps you in, like, all aspects of life, David Goggins, his book is amazing. I don't know if you read that one. His book is outstanding, especially if you listen to audiobooks. I didn't get the audio one, but the audio one, he reads it, so he's yelling at you reading the book the whole time. It's great.
Really?
Oh yeah. And like even in the book, he's like yelling. It's in like all caps with like 10 exclamation points in some parts. Like it's pretty crazy.
What? Okay,
Yeah,
well now I got to read
yeah,
it.
it's good. But
I love that.
how was that class with him? Like,
It's so
did you
they
actually
obviously
learn
kept him
something
on
from it,
tilt.
or
I did. Like they had a lot of other speakers that were talking about, how to make money, this and that, whatever. And Ed Milet was there. Cody Sanchez, another one that like buys businesses. So it's kind of like a financial thing, whatever. But then David Goggins was obviously the main keynote, and they kept him till the end of the day. And I just never will forget, he come out and he's cussing up a storm, like obviously he does. That's how he talks, right? And he's like, and if my words fucking offend you, there's the door. Get out. Like he was like, they're just words, people, get over it. And I'm like, oh my God, I love this dude. But then he went back into his history and talked about his upbringing and how he made it to 300 pounds, like his whole story. So his story was more of a motivational one, and basically pick yourself up every morning, no matter how you feel, and get stuff done. Like, so it wasn't really how to grow something. It was about internal motivation. And I mean, it's good. He's a very good speaker in person. He has a way of motivating people, and it was pretty good.
do you find those? You hear a lot of, I don't know if you've been to a few of them, but I hear all about these, like these, mentor coaches, like seminar type stuff, the financial stuff. Do you find they help a lot, or are they hit and miss?
To be perfectly honest, this was kind of, it felt more outside of the main keynote speakers, the three owners. This was the Aspire tour that was just in Charlotte that I went to, just for reference.
Yeah.
But there was three different owners, and they tell you enough to scratch the surface of things, and then they try to sell you on future things. It's like the Ponzi scheme thing in the middle of it. So it was it kind of distracted me from the keynotes that were there. So they built this thing up as this whole huge thing. And I said, we're going to tell you how to avoid paying tax, how the rich avoid paying tax, and they'll talk about it for like an hour. But they never give you the punchline. They're like, I'm going to be back in Charlotte February 19th to the 21st. And for today only, if you sign up at the table right there, it's only $200.
Damn it.
So it kind of threw me off. I was just like, you know what? Like, I paid to be here. I just really want to see David Goggins talk, and then I'm out. Like, it gave me enough to where I can do my own research on these topics without having them deep dive in it. But they put these people up that are hundreds of millionaires. Like Ed Milet's got like 6 jets. He owns his own island, like all these things, super rich. And they want to, as long as you use the motivation, don't walk out of there thinking you're going to become a 100 millionaire. You know what I'm saying? Like, as long as it gives you a good starting point on what to invest in, or like maybe where to look somewhere different that you hadn't looked. So it does broaden some horizons, but it doesn't give you the recipe on how to become incredibly successful until you buy their future passes, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of threw it all off. I don't know if I will ever go to another one unless it's like, let's say, Jocko speaking at it, or somebody that I want to see in person, then I think I'll pass. So.
Yeah. Where do you see your business going from here? You kind of got this, you got a following, you start to get, bigger, like you said. Where do you see the trajectory going, or are you looking at other types of stuff to get into, or where do you see it happening?
I feel like I've niched myself so much into the veteran space that I've alienated 97% of the population with my product. Right? When you think about it, 3% veterans or active duty, whatever it may be, it's right around that number, give or take.
Yeah.
And there's not many civilians. I have a lot of civilian customers, don't get me wrong. There's not many people that haven't served that want the grenade. It's like, so it does in time give me a way to a niche marketing that I can market to veterans, right? And all these things. But I'm excluding the rest of the population with this. So I've got another product lineup, another brand. I want to rebrand some things. I just haven't had the opportunity to go down that path because I'm trying to still keep all this stuff going. So
yeah,
I've got some different things that I want to do, but it's just time. I want to develop a shampoo that's truly all natural. I want to do all these other things to kind of like, because I've had a lot of requests for that stuff. I want to help more veteran charities. I work with Operation Turbo. It's probably the one that means the most to me because they handle, they ship care packages. So a forward deployed unit, if they realize there's a Marine, soldier, sailor, whoever that hasn't received mail or whatever, they can request them to get a box. You know how important morale is. Like,
Oh
and I
yeah,
felt like even in the Marine Corps, nobody cared about morale. Like
I've
troop
had those
welfare is
boxes.
secondary.
I've had those boxes delivered on deployment. They're great. They're
Have
like,
you?
oh yeah, they're a true morale booster. Like you get stuff like that. It wasn't from that organization, but I've had like stuff like that sent to me, and it is truly like it lifts you up to know people back home care, and it's just it's super awesome. So that's awesome. You're doing that for everybody out there.
And that hits near and dear to me because there was guys that never got any mail. And we're in Iraq. We're over there. I had met my wife's then girlfriend. Now she wrote me so much whenever mail caught up with us. I had like all these things. Like she'd send me care. I get logs of Copenhagen from her stateside, and I was like a rock star over there, you know, like because I got stateside Copenhagen in country. And they're like, oh my god, like I'll give you $100 for a can. Like it was insane. But there was guys there that literally never even got a letter. And it's like, but I obviously tried to share with them and try to do what I can, cigarettes, whatever, you know, because it's huge commodity, right? And, but it hit home with me. And then I met the owner, Diane. She's an awesome human being. But I donate soap to them. They buy my lip balms. I give them a super cheap discount on that. So my lip balms, usually my soap are in there because I know that's what they need. Like, you know what they can use. I put it in a little disposable bag where they can hang it and dry it and use the soap out of it and use the bag for something else, whatever it may be. But it's biodegradable and everything. So that's the main one that I support. And I support all the random people will ask me for like gift cards or something for charity, and I obviously I donate to everyone that I can. I always say that I'll do what I can when I can. I may not always be able to go to send 100 grenades overseas somewhere, but I can do what I can to help, you know.
Every little bit counts. That's all that matters, you know. If you're just helping out, that's the main takeaway, and that's awesome. You yeah. Do with that you know, with that new step of your one, I kind of like the business aspect a little bit, but with the let's say rebrand, not a rebrand, but a different line, right? Can you just incorporate that? Line. Yeah. So can you incorporate that under your like company, I guess, and like it all stays kind of together? Or is it like a complete separate entity?
I'll probably keep it as a DBA under the K-Bar Soapco thing, but it'll be a complete different entity. I've already reserved the website and already done the infrastructure is there. I've reserved the social media accounts and all that other stuff. You got everything. I just have to build the site, make the soap, and then I've got the logos. It's already there. It's just it takes money to buy, you know, 5,000 or 6,000 pre-printed boxes, like, and then buy the displays that I'm going to try to go in retail with. Because I've had people tell me they go into big retailers and stuff. Like I sold into the Lowe's. One of the biggest thing I ever did, I sold in the Lowe's home improvement store, like locally. So I pitched to them and got in Lowe's. But I had to make square bars to get into Lowe's because there's no way a major retailer is going to take a grenade.
Oh, wow.
It's not going to happen.
That sucks.
They find grenades offensive and they don't want anything about it, right? Because, I mean, no matter what we feel or how we feel about it, it is absolutely soap. Like, it's like, but whenever I pitched it, he said, you came to me with the correct shape because there's no way we're going to take in the grenades. Because I made squares just to go after big retail. So I know that they won't take anything that looks like a explosive at all, right? So the next lineup is going to be square bars. This is going to be rebranded, and it's going to be primarily focused on an outdoors type person. So I've got scents that, you know, in and of itself repel bugs. I've got a scent that's like a mechanics bar, like that's like my version of lava. Like, so I'm rebranding, renaming the same things in these boxes with a different look and giving them like cool names. Like my bug repellent bar is called fuck bugs, right? Like anybody in the military, all I remember is on Paris Island, we're standing there at a position of attention and the sand fleas are on us. And we're all like, man, fuck these bugs. So that's my throwback to that, right? Because it's a natural bug repellent bar. So I'm going to rebrand that and I'm going to call it Natty Light in this outdoor brand, like GNATTY Light, like do a little pun, little play on words, right? So I'm just going to do that and then do it differently. And then go after Bass Pro and go after Cabela's and go after all these because there's nobody that does natural soap that caters to the outdoor shops.
Yeah.
I'm removing their excuses because I've tried to get to Bass Pro for years.
Yeah.
And, well, Cabela's is here, but then Bass Pro bought out Cabela's, which I'm sure you're fully aware of being where you're at, like the homestead there, right?
Yeah.
So Cabela's used to be able to buy local. So I had to set up a Memorial Day. I was going to set up a table up there and I was going to get a display in the local Cabela's. But then in between the time I spoke with them and Memorial Day, Bass Pro bought that whole Cabela's out. And then everything that is in Bass Pro or Cabela's now has to go through corporate. So it was just a whole timing thing, so I was close, but I didn't give up and I was still trying. So.
Well, good. I'm glad to see you got so many plans, and I'm happy to see that. And I like your lineup just in general, because it still sounds like once you hit that, it's going to even explode there, because the natural stuff, like we said, it's going to take off. So that's good. Chris, I really this was super fun talking to you about everything.
Thank you.
I had so much fun hearing about it. Guys, if you're listening to this, check out, it'll be in the description and stuff. Check out Chris's line, the K-Bar soap. It is awesome. There's so much stuff you can get. I checked out the site. There's so much stuff you can look at on there. Please support the brand.
There's one or two things.
Yeah. And Chris, number one, thank you for your service. And number two, thank you for coming on here and spending your time with me, because I enjoyed your story and I'm sure others will too.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me. I'm glad we were able to finally link up. These schedules are a little bit of a nightmare.
Oh, yeah. When we were trying to schedule it like crazy, go back and forth, but we made it work. It's good.
We did. Absolutely. It was worth it. It was worth the wait too, man. But thank you very much for having me, man. It was a good time.
Hell yeah. All right. See y'all next time. Thanks.